Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hey there, everyone. Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Hope you're doing well today as we get into the meat of Major League Baseball. We started a couple weeks, we started a while ago, but really we started last week with Major League Baseball, and we're kind of in the groove now. We got things rocking and rolling over at FantasyGuru.com. We've got articles coming out. We've got updates. We've got the DFS rolling. We've got the wagering rolling. All of it ready to go and to help you have some success in 2025. I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. We're here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday through Friday at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time here on Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. You can find me on social medias at the Ray Flowers. That's at the Ray Flowers. You can always go to FantasyGuru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page, get signed up for any of the products that we have to offer. If you missed it last week on Friday, we talked football with Russell Clay, NFL. We talked UFL. With Mark Hogan. So yeah, we offer the UFL package. We cover UFL, NFL. We're covering the draft right now. The rookie player profile series is coming out right now. You can get franchise mode over at fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. That's basically our off-season package that covers the UFL as well as the lead up to the draft. So you can get that if you don't want to do the full season thing. Obviously, we'd welcome you at the full season too if you'd like to sign up there. We do cover everything at FG. We cover football, baseball, basketball, hockey, NASCAR, PGA, MMA, horse racing. I'm sure I'm leaving things out. We cover a lot of stuff over at FG. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. Send a note to support@fantasyguru.com. Support@fantasyguru.com if you have any questions. And as I said, baseball season's underway, so that means we're rocking and rolling. You can get the seasonal baseball package, which covers you all season long. You can get the DFS package, which is the same thing all season long. You can get the wagering package all season long. You can get all three of those packages as one. You can get two of the three. You can get one of the three. Hit us up over at FG, subscribe, tab top right corner, or send a note to support@fantasyguru.com if you do indeed have any questions that you would like to address. Okay, here we go. This is what we're talking about today. All baseball today. So if that's your thing, which I assume it is at this point of the calendar and with you here on the show, we're going baseball here for the entirety of the show. As you can see that on the screen, lots to talk about. Hot starting players, cold starting players, guys in new roles, guys being let go that might be worth a pickup, guys injured, of course, and we'll talk about those torpedo bats here to start the show because I know that's a big storyline that people are, what is a torpedo bat? Is it legal? All this kind of stuff. We'll talk a little bit about it here in a few moments. Again, subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page at fantasyguru.com. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, because you go to FG and you click on that Elite Plus tab at the top of the page and you listen to the podcast there, or if you just type in Fantasy Sports Daily to your podcast network and you're wondering what I'm talking about watching, yeah, that's right. We also have this show live. So you can watch live, you can leave comments and questions live, or you can always watch the show on demand as well. Three ways to do that: Twitter X at Fantasy Guru site, Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ, and then youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. You can find us there. You can find the Race Guru Fantasy Hour. Lots of things to check out there over on the YouTube page as well. All right, let's make this a little bit different. There we go. Henry V says, morning, Ray, first weekend in the books. How many mass pickups should we do? A bazillion. I would change over your entire team, Henry. If anyone started off, slowly, if anyone's 1 for 11, they're gone. If anyone started out 5 for 11, they should, what I'm talking about. We'll actually have, and I wanted to mention that here today. We'll later today in a couple hours over at FG, if it's not up already, because I wrote it this morning. I think it's on the timer. Let's see if it's actually up yet. I don't know if it's up yet. There's an article coming out about sample size. It just went up. Yeah, it just went up actually. So it's available right now at FG. There's an article about sample size, and I would encourage, I know Henry's asking this question in jest, but I would really encourage everyone to read this. It talks about a variety of measurements that we use to analyze players and the required number of at-bats, plate appearances, batters faced, that kind of thing. to get a real handle on players. And I mean, Angela said someone dropped the Zuna in 10-team league. Terrible, terrible. People make dumb decisions, and that's in that sample size article that just went up over at fantasyguru.com. There's actually my rules of roster moves. What are the rules that I'm laying out for the month of April that you should follow to have success? Who should you drop? When should you make a drop? Should you ever make a drop? All of these topics are discussed in the article, as well as giving those actual numbers in terms of plate appearances, batter space, et cetera, et cetera. But my rules for working the waiver wire and roster manipulation in April, that is part of the sample size article up at fantasyguru.com. And again, I would encourage everyone to read it because, you know, this is the time you've already seen it. There have already been a lot of questions in Discord, player movement. I had someone talking to me about the rankings the other day. You know, we've played a handful of games. The rankings are not different. You know, the only way the rankings have changed is if there's been an injury or if there was a odd roster decision that we were unaware was going to happen. The case of Miguel Garcia, excuse me, is a very good one. Got my Miguel's messed up. Miguel Garcia was out of the lineup once for the Royals, and he was back in the lineup at third base. Today he's actually in the outfield. So Garcia, you know, who runs, who we're used to seeing play every day, you know, maybe he only plays 80% of the time this year. Maybe he's not playing 98% of the games for the Royals. I don't know that yet. Now, again, players get hurt all the time and situations change. But what we do seem to see is something that we hinted at in the preseason with Garcia. He's playing the outfield today. So he might become a super sub that's eligible all over the place with his speed, which is really valuable. So there really aren't many scenarios where the rankings have changed. Maybe in the bullpen, maybe. And let me say that again, maybe we'll talk about bullpen arms here in a few minutes. But everyone, take a breath, read the article over at FG. Don't make mistakes early in the season. Okay, let's talk about those torpedo bats. For those people that don't know, and I was going to get a bunch of graphics and everything, but let's just keep this very simple. A traditional baseball bat is tapered. Thin at the handle. As it gets up, the barrel goes like that, right? The torpedo bat, what it basically does is it moves the barrel down toward your hands. The Yankees did a bunch of analysis, and because we have the tools available at our hands now, in the old days we'd know if a guy hit a line drive, right? We could see with our eyeballs. We could say the guy hit this many home runs, but we didn't know about exit velocity. We didn't have that data. Now we've got exit velocity. Not only do we have exit velocity, we're able to track where on the bat the baseball's hit. There's been a lot of talk of Anthony Volpe. They did some analysis of Anthony Volpe, and the fact is that Anthony Volpe hit a lot of balls about halfway down the bat near the trademark. That's not ideal. You want to be above the trademark with the way the traditional bat is made, right? So the Yankees decided to break this down and see if they could rejigger the shape of the baseball bat, because if they could get the mass, i.e. the barrel, lower down toward the hands for Anthony Volpe, he would stand a better chance of hitting the ball on the barrel of the bat more frequently. So that's what the Yankees are going to do. So again, instead of the traditional bat that's really thin and then just broadens up to the top where the barrel is, the torpedo bats start up thin the same way. The barrel comes up quicker, and then toward the top we get a narrowing. So it's more like this. Traditional barrels are like this, right? Let me get my hands better. They're like this, then to top. Torpedoes like this. So there's been a lot of talk about where the torpedo, and this is, to me, and I said this earlier in Discord today, the discussion about whether the bats were legal or not is just clickbait. It's just clickbait, because they wouldn't be using the bats in a major league game if they were illegal. Because the first time Volpe walks up there, the first time Jazz Chisholm walks up to the plate with a bat that clearly looks different, everyone would notice that. First time that happens, the opponent comes running out of the dugout and says, "Hey man, check this bat out." And if there's any question, they outlaw the bat. Clearly, that's not the case. The Yankees obviously went through the protocol that's necessary to get the bat approved by Major League Baseball. And a lot of people are surprised to learn that there really aren't many rules for Major League Baseball. Here's all that it says. And this is the actual Major League Baseball rule for bats. I'm quoting it now. The bat shall be smooth, round stick, not more than 2.61 inches in diameter at the thickest part, and not more than 42 inches in length. The bat shall be one piece of solid wood. Note, no laminated or experimental bat should be used in a professional game until the manufacturer has secured approval from Major League Baseball of this design and methods of manufacture. So clearly, as the Yankees are walking out there in game one with these bats, clearly they've been approved by Major League Baseball. Clearly they're legal. And all this talk, are the bats legal? Just clickbait. People are just trying to get you to click on stuff. The bats are legal. Are they shaped differently? Yes. And here's the thing. There is an unconfirmed, under the radar, we've talked about Giancarlo Stanton a lot. How does he have double elbow issues? What's going on? How do you get both elbow issues? What's this catastrophic issue? And, what the hell's going on with his elbows? There's an unconfirmed rumor out there that Stanton was trying these other bats and maybe it caused the problem. And I think for a lot of people that didn't play baseball or didn't play past the age of 10, 12, 13, something like that, middle school, they may not understand the fact that there are a lot of players. I was one of these when I played. That was very particular about my bats. And a lot of baseball players can tell you, like they'll pick a bat up and they'll just do a little this and they'll be like, that bat's a half ounce too heavy or half ounce too light. Like they can tell, and then you weigh it, it's a half ounce too heavy or too light. So a lot of players are very particular. You'll then get the other players that will just grab whatever bat's there. And, they might have their own model, right, through Louisville Slugger. And one day, Jazz Chisholm's got his own model. One day he's walking around the clubhouse, he picks up a DJ LeMahieu bat, swings in batting practice like, hey, this feels pretty good. He uses that for 3 weeks in games, right? Some players are very, very open to changing up bats and all this kind of thing. What I will tell you is that the biggest thing that I've taken away from the torpedo bat thing is that anyone that wants to use a torpedo bat, whether it's Bellinger or Chisholm or Volpe, any of these guys with the Yankees, anyone in any other team that wants to use it, you need to practice that. You're not going to take a torpedo bat and swing it, 15 times in batting practice and then take it into a game, because the whole balance of the bat is dramatically changed when you move the center of mass. It's logic, right? I was very particular again about my bats, about the size, the weight, about my hand grip, and all this kind of stuff. The feel of the bat was very important to me. And, if you take the center of mass from out here and you put it down here, when you swing, it's going to be different. And it's not about necessarily, well, are we getting jammed more, so we need the weight of the bat lower, the barrel lower toward our hands. It's not that we tend to get our arms extended, so let's get the barrel lower so we don't get jammed. It's not really that. It's partly that, of course. But it's also the feel of the bat. Maybe Stanton's changed his swing up using this different weight, and he just hurt himself in essence. Maybe that happened. Again, that's speculation completely. But I will tell you that, think of it, any of you that did play baseball, if you choked up on the bat, choke up an inch and a half on the bat, it feels totally different, right? The weight of the bat is totally different in your hands. And again, if the weight of the bat is generally 22 inches from your hands, and now it's 18 inches from your hands because it's going to feel totally different. So we'll continue to watch this story. I am kind of surprised, to be truthful, that something like this hasn't happened. We have spent so much time talking about the baseball, talking about launch angle, talking about pitchers going and trying to find velocity and spin rates and all these kind of things. The bat was kind of the one thing that, maybe you had a knob on your bat, maybe you had a tapered handle, maybe the handle was a little thicker, a little thinner. The barrel part really wasn't changed much. Most bats are very similar in that respect. So it's kind of cool that there's a new look here. The bats are legal. They'll continue to be used, I'm sure. And we'll continue to follow this story because it is an interesting story. And because I've had this asked too, was this a big story in the preseason? Somebody let me know in the chat if you read about this back on March 1st and it was a big national news story or whatever, because I didn't see it. And I don't read every report. I don't say, okay. But this was not a national news story at all. So what are these beat writers doing? Because it's not like the Yankees all of a sudden just rolled these out on day one of the regular season. No beat writer there watching the Yankees noticed the bats were different. No one talked to the coaching staff or the front office and said, hey, what's this rumor? If you saw it and I didn't see it, let me know. But again, I didn't see it. John G says that he used to grip that he got off the King Arthur's sword that he pulled from the stone. Well, good for you. Because when I tried to pull on that, much like all the Avengers did when they tried to lift Thor's hammer, I was unable to move it. Maybe you're, John, more like Captain America than I was. Jack B says in New York, and we didn't even hear about the bats prior to this. Yeah, again, we've bemoaned the coverage of sports. There's lots of stories about, guys, third cousin who, went on a trek and Africa and what's your puppy like? And I love puppy stories. Like I love dogs. But how about we get some real analysis? The fantasy space is great because in the fantasy space, we do real analysis. And I know the front office are doing real analysis. The Yankees front office is doing real analysis, or they wouldn't have changed the bat, right? It'd be nice if the beat writers got more involved in this. I don't know. I think a lot. I don't know. Yeah, Angelo, one announcer called it a bowling pin. It looks more like a bowling pin than a traditional bat. I think that's fair, but it's legal. So anyway, let me know if you saw some articles because I just didn't see it. All right, Paul Goldschmidt, speaking of the Yankees, we heard late in camp that Paul Goldschmidt might hit leadoff against left-handed pitching. because the Yankees were saying Austin Wells, player profile on Austin Wells up over at FG. And we talked about this. He's going to bat leadoff against right-handed pitching. That's the plan. Paul Goldschmidt's been hitting leadoff for the Yankees. And he hit leadoff Sunday, and then was set to hit leadoff against a righty after going against Mr. Cortez against Aaron Savali, who, by the way, was placed on the injured list earlier today. So this is a developing story. Paul Goldschmidt's not a leadoff hitter. Austin Wells is not a leadoff hitter. But if you're hitting in front of Aaron Judge, yippee-ki-yay. A lot of us, including me, took Paul Goldschmidt in the 14th round, 17th round, 19th round. You took him as your corner infield guy, right? That would be a huge boost to his value if he's hitting leadoff, even if it's just against lefties. But if it's against some righties too, significant upturn for Paul Goldschmidt, and that's something to definitely keep an eye on with them as well. Henry says, I think the Rays have them, or saw a report it was using a game this weekend. Okay, cool. Yeah, but again, we're talking like, did you hear anyone hear about this on March 1st or February 15th when players started showing up? Let me know if you've seen any of those stories. The Rangers placed Josh Jung. I always say it wrong. Josh Jung. On the injured list, he's got a neck issue. I have him on multiple teams. A lot of you probably do too. Last year was a mess because of injury. A couple years ago, he displayed the power that should lead to 25 to 30 home runs this year if he's healthy. Part of that great lineup in Texas, great ballpark to hit in Texas. They're saying that the neck injury for Jung is just neck spasms. They don't think it's significant. They think they're going to put him on the 10-day. He'll be back at that point in time. We'll see. Ezekiel Duran, Josh Smith will fill in. No one cares. You don't care about those guys. Jung is somebody that, if you've got a IL spot, you just put him on the IL spot and you wait. If you don't, not a great start. Fortunately for me, in in Tout Wars, where I have Josh Jung, of the Rangers, the third baseman, where I have him as my bench corner infield guy, I was able to, because we drafted a long time ago, and this is the way this goes. Spencer Torkelson was on the waiver wire, so I was able to add Spencer Torkelson as a replacement for Josh Jung. So at least I got a corner infield bat, and he's been terrific thus far. Torkelson, obviously, we've talked about him a lot here. Going back to spring, he's been terrific this year. So hopefully you're able to make some move here. But it does seem like the Rangers are not expecting their third baseman to be out a significant amount of time. So don't go bananas making a huge trade or anything like that if you have him on your roster. Eugenio Suarez, one of my guys, one of those players who, every year goes out and goes, 28, 80 as a minimum. Oftentimes much better than that. Last year went 30, 90, 100 or 30, 100, 90. Comes into this season and it's kind of like, well, give me Eugenio Suarez. And okay, fine. He's in that, corner infield zone, that Paul Goldschmidt zone where you just take a guy and you're looking for the power. He's had a phenomenal start. Suarez has got 4 home runs in 4 games. He's the most exciting part beyond that. I don't even think the home runs are the most exciting part because he's going to hit his 28 home runs again. It's the fact that he's only struck out 18% of the time. Now it's 4 games. Am I going to look at a guy who's been at 27% in his strikeout rate each of the last 6 years and think he's going to be under 20% this year? No, absolutely not. But I'd love to see this hot start from Suarez. My best advice, Eugenio Suarez is going to hit 230 with 28 home runs and 80 RBIs. Okay, that's what he's going to do. And maybe it's 240 with this hot start. And maybe it's 31 home runs. Maybe it's 92 RBIs. Okay, but he's going to be in that zone. We know who he is. That's not going to change. He'll be 34 in a couple months. The strikeout rate's going to go up. If you can trade him at this point, because someone believes he's going to hit 45 home runs this year, or he's going to bat 270, if someone's willing to overpay for Suarez, you're listening. If you've got him on your team, just know who he is and let it ride, right? But it is a great start. We'll keep a close eye on that number there when it comes to the strikeout rate. And if it continues to stay down, then we'll change our tune. But I don't think that's going to be the case. John G basically asking a question here about catchers. We just talked about Wells. Gabriel Moreno's obviously a Diamondback. We were just talking about Suarez. So let's look at it. A 1-catcher league, I have Moreno and Wells. I feel like dropping either is dumb, but also have 2 catchers is dumb as well. A 12-team mixed head-to-head league. John, in a 1-catcher league, I would carry 1 catcher. I would not carry a bench catcher. Because let's say your number 1 catcher, whether it's Wells or Moreno, they're playing 130 games. So that's only 32 games. Let's call it 30 for the discussion. There's only 30 games where these guys aren't playing. Depending upon how your roster is constructed, when you can change your lineup, can you change your lineup daily? Can you change your lineup on Monday and Friday? Can you only put your lineup in once a week? How many of the 30 extra games can you actually take advantage of the backup catcher? Beyond that, is the backup catcher going to be active in those 30 days where Wells isn't active or Moreno isn't active? We don't know that. Maybe they're resting. Maybe they played last night. Maybe they don't like the team, doesn't like the matchup. So let's call those 30 extra games, let's call it 23 games you actually get the catcher usable, right? So we're getting 23 games of a catcher. The second catcher is going to hit 230 with 18 home runs. You're not getting anything out of that. So to me, a second catcher in a one catcher league is really a wasted roster spot unless you have like a 10-person bench. If you have an additional 5, 6, 7-person bench, I'm not carrying a second catcher. I wouldn't have drafted him. I wouldn't have done it. I agree with you, though. Now that we're here, I don't also want to just give somebody a potentially starting catcher. So what I would probably do here, John, is I would hold these two guys, wait until the injury to JT Realmuto is more significant, or Smith goes down, or Diaz goes down. Wait till Salvador Perez. Wait till somebody's hurt, and then trade one of these guys to that team. I'd wait a while, be patient if you can, because again, I agree with you. I think dropping the guy is kind of a rough spot as well. All right, let's continue the discussion here. Let's see here. Rafael Devers. We were just talking about Eugenio Suarez and his hot start. Rafael Devers, we've talked about him so much here on the show. Where's he going to play? Is he going to play first base? Then it was, is he going to DH? Then it's no, he's going to be the third baseman. Then it's no, he's now the DH. He's now the DH. We oftentimes, and I talk about this a lot as a former player, even though I was nowhere near this level of player, you get in routines, right? If you're a number 4 hitter and your coach puts you hitting 6 one day, it's weird. If you're a second baseman and your coach puts you at third base one day, it's weird. If you've played third base your entire life, the coach says you're now the DH, it's weird, okay? It's very different. Some guys take the DHing great. Other guys just never do. They just can never get the footing there. It's a totally different game. You're not on the field. You're not involved. You're sitting in the dugout. You're watching video in the clubhouse. It's just different. 4 games is not enough to make that determination with Rafael Devers. Not even close. But the dude has 12 strikeouts and 18 plate appearances, and he's 0 for 16. That is as catastrophic a start as possible, barring a season-ending injury. He has never had a 4, and I don't know this, he's never had a 4-game period of time in his baseball career where he's been worse than this. He has 12 strikeouts in 4 games. Just, whew. My best advice with Rafael Devers at this point is to put him on the bench this week, let him find a stroke, and then get him active next week. If you have Devers, nothing to do but wait. If someone in your league, like we saw the Marcell Ozuna owner earlier today on the show, someone dropped Marcell Ozuna. If someone drops Rafael Devers, they go nuts. Or someone says to you, hey, man, give me Jose Caballero. I need some player flexibility. Like, we're in, right? We're still buying, holding Rafael Devers. Start is extremely discouraging. The way he was utilized in spring is discouraging. The move from third base to DH, that's problematic, as we talked about all spring, but he's simply been too good, too consistent, too productive to panic over 4 games. Horrid start. But still keep the faith with Rafael Devers. Next up, Tyler Soderstrom. Tyler Soderstrom is somebody that I spoke highly of in the offseason. I drafted Tyler Soderstrom on my teams. We talked about him on the show many times, especially when we heard the rumors that he might be the backup catcher for the A's. And we started thinking, if it's only 5 to 10 games for you to gain position eligibility in your league, Soderstrom, by the end of May, mid-June, something like that, might be catcher eligible in your league, right? So let's pay really close attention to him. He had his 3rd home run of the season on Sunday. And, I'm getting a lot of questions about Soderstrom and all that. Soderstrom, let's use the Eugenio Suarez example here. Soderstrom, in my opinion, this is why I was excited about him in the offseason. This is why I drafted him myself. Soderstrom's batted ball data, his pedigree are top-notch. I think if he has a good season, he has 20 home runs and 80 RBIs. As a catcher, that's a catcher 1. As a first baseman, it's a quarter infield guy and kind of who cares. So that's why, Ray, you didn't have Soderstrom ranked as your 10th first baseman. No, I didn't, because I'm not expecting him to go 3,100, right? I'm not. But if he hits 260, 2080, again, he's a catcher 1. He's almost Salvador Perez if he does that, right? If he does that as a first baseman, if he does that as a corner infielder, okay. So we drafted Soderstrom, as I did, to be my corner infielder. If we can dream and becomes catcher eligible, that's fantastic. But if not, he settles in and he's just a usable corner infield piece. So if he's on your waiver wire and you want to add him, go for it. Again, be cautious with the drop. We're not dropping a guy that I had ranked 10 spots ahead of him at first base because Soderstrom's got 3 home runs already. We've got to walk that line of being intelligent about the moves. Remember, go to FG, read that sample size article today that talks about when you should make a move, as well as the numbers that we should be looking at to get a true picture of who a player is or isn't. Soderstrom is one of those guys that was probably picked up in most leagues last night when the Ravens run on Sunday night. People probably spent too much. We'll see. His value is going to be solid as a first baseman. It could be really good if he gets that catcher eligibility early in the season. Kyle Manzardo is another one of these guys at the corner infield spot. Another guy that I would say, hey, 260, 2080 would be a really good season. Manzardo started out extremely well, and the most interesting part about the early season work for Manzardo is that he's had success against left-handed pitching. There was, and still is to some extent, a belief that Manzardo won't play much against left-handed pitching. He'll be the DH against righties for the Guardians, first base righty for the Guardians, but he won't play against lefties. Got 6 plate appearances against lefties, and he's got a walk and 4 extra base hits. That's the way to change some opinions in that the decision-making hierarchy of a team, to go out and get on base 5 times in 6 plate appearances against lefties. So that could really open things up. So if Manzardo's getting 580 plate appearances versus 480 plate appearances, significant difference. Though remember, again, Manzardo is probably going to be capped around 20 home runs. I wouldn't anticipate more than 75-ish RBIs. I would look at Manzardo this season and kind of say, okay, I think I've made this comparison previously. Let's have a Nathaniel Lowe kind of season. Let's have a Michael Busch kind of season. I think that's where Manzardo is going to be this year. Maybe everything the scouting report says about Manzardo comes to fruition quickly, and maybe he's better than that right now. That could happen. Same time, he's not a 30 home run guy. He's more of a hit over power guy, and that's not perfect at first base. Again, I think he's more in that corner infield area. So don't buy the hype of this hot start and think he's going to break out and have some all-star level season. Possible, not likely. I also share the point of view that Jim Bowden, who I work with at Sears XM, the former GM. Jim, not a fan of Kyle Manzardo, for what it's worth. If you believe what a former GM thinks, not a fan of Kyle Manzardo other than what I described him as. Not a fan of him having a breakout season by any means in 2025. This news came down earlier today. Colton Cowser of the Orioles has been placed on the injured list. He's got a fractured left thumb. There's no timeline yet for his return. I think it's fair to say 4 to 6 weeks as a guesstimate right now for Cowser. Obviously, this is very disappointing. He was looked at by a lot of people as a guy that was going to hit 25, 30 home runs, steal double-digit bases, be in the lineup consistently. We saw him have a very productive rookie season last year. So he's out with a broken thumb. We'll see how long that is. Again, my guesstimate is 4 to 6 weeks. So he's out for April, and then we'll kind of see. Is kind of my guesstimate. We'll follow this storyline closely, of course. What do the Orioles do? They called up Dylan Carlson, formerly the Cardinals. They called up Dylan Carlson to the big leagues. He's not in the lineup today. The starting lineup today includes Heston Kjerstad. Now, Kjerstad is somebody who's on my Dynasty League team. This is, I think, an opportunity. We're just talking, Phil Backert and I, Mr. Oriole. We were just talking about what the Orioles' plan were the last week or so. What are the Orioles doing? They have too many guys. You don't give guys away for free. At the same time, it's kind of frustrating to have. They've got all these guys, Kobe, Mayo, Baseo. They've got all these youngsters that are still coming. They traded Norby last year because they didn't have space for him. Was Heston Kjerstad, who, by the way, is Kjerstad, but it's pronounced Kjerstad. Kjerstad, was he going to be another one of these guys they just trade because they don't have space? Well, now with the injury to Cowser, I would anticipate Kjerstad getting the work over Dylan Carlson. That's me. We'll see what they do. Kjerstad's taken a long time to kind of arrive. He's had health issues. His heart was a problem. He had some health issues off the field, so it took longer than expected for him to kind of get to the big league level. But that dude's a hitter. Scouting reports have always been extremely positive on Kjerstad. He just hasn't had the opportunity at the big league level to consistently play. Maybe he gets that opportunity over the next month. That would be my expectation. I think Kjerstad could be much like the last 2 guys we talked about. Kjerstad could be a 260, 2080 guy this year. He could do that. Now, again, that's playing every day, and I have no idea if that's going to be the way things play out with the Orioles. But Kjerstad, in most, let's say 12, 14, 15 team leagues, anything above 10, give consideration to adding Kjerstad. But remember, keep this in mind. We're not positive about how much time Cal's going to miss. We're not positive if Kjerstad is going to play every day. Even if he's out there, maybe he's still in a platoon scenario. Is Dylan Carlson going to get involved? Who's, a was at one time an elite prospect, not a pretty good prospect, an elite prospect. Cautious, trepidation, I'm searching for the right word, cautious optimism with Kjerstad. Like, I look to see, because there's one league where I'm in where waivers run and then they're open Monday. So waivers run Sunday night and then they're open for a couple hours on Monday. I went to see if Kjerstad was available. In my league, he was drafted because that's a 15-team mixed league. He was drafted in my league. So, we go 450 players deep in the draft on that. So in your leagues, he's probably available. But again, cautious optimism with Heston Kjerstad. Sal Frelick, we talked a lot about Sal Frelick and hoped that the extra weight he put on was going to help. He had a really good spring. Again, on the show, he's brought up many times. I drafted him myself in a couple of leagues, including very late in my keeper league. He went 2 for 4 on Sunday with an RBI. He's now 5 for 11. Let's not go overboard. Doesn't mean anything. It's just a handful of games, but I love seeing it. He's on the early going here. Sal Frelick has carried over his hot spring into a hot start in the Major League season. Now, again, it's a handful of games. He could be hitting 210 in a month. So, again, Frelick, nice hit tool. Should be able to steal 30 bases at the big league level. The hit tool hasn't really showed up at the big league level. His StatCast numbers have been some of the worst in baseball the last couple of years. While he's stolen bases, he's been a 15 steal guy, not a 30 steal guy. So there's a lot to prove, but he did put on weight. His StatCast numbers were better in spring, and he's off to a strong start. So let's keep those fingers crossed that a guy that was drafted, if at all in your league, like as a 6th outfielder, maybe he's a 4th, 5th guy this year. Good start for South Florida. Ben Rice is another player, much like Manzardo, much like Soderstrom, that is a first base eligible player coming into the season. He's not a catcher. Now, I've heard from some people he's catcher in my league. He played 1 game at catcher last year. So, if you're in a league where Ben Rice is a catcher eligible player this season, your league sucks. Just going to say it. It sucks. Because he's not a catcher. He played 1 game at catcher. 1. Not a catcher. If Ben Rice is a catcher, add him. Just like Soderstrom. If he's a catcher, add him. Shouldn't be a catcher. It's an abomination if he is, but if he's a catcher, add him. As a first base play, started out strong here. He's in the lineup for the Yankees. Everyone on the Yankees is hitting right now, as we're well aware. At this point in time, with the injuries to DJ LeMahieu and Giancarlo Stanton in particular, there's an opportunity for Rice to be in the lineup most days as a designated hitter. Obviously, there'll be guys that want to rotate and get some time off. We might Jazz Chisholm every once in a while there. We'll certainly see Aaron Judge probably there every once in a while. So, oh my gosh, Ben Rice is going to get 512 plate appearances instead of 590, right? The plan right now is for Rice to play every day. Now, if Stan ever gets back on the field, when DJ LeMahieu gets back, if there's a trade the Yankees make, how these things go. Ben Rice is going to have to hit to stay in the lineup. He's a pivot point player. If Ben Rice is hitting, 300 with a 360 on base percentage when DJ LeMahieu comes back, Ben Rice is still going to be in the lineup. If by the time DJ LeMahieu is ready to go, Ben Rice is hitting 210 with a 287 on base percentage. So don't go overboard with Ben Rice. He does have the power to be a 25, 30 home run guy. He's obviously got a potentially strong lineup around him, a good place to hit. He's a pretty significant power hitter. Is his overall offensive game impressive? Yeah. But if he's playing every day, he could rack up decent numbers. Just, again, be cautious with him, especially as a first base eligible player. This next player wasn't in the write-up over at fantasyguru.com. If you haven't seen it already, we've got our Fab article went up on Saturday. It was updated on Sunday. We had our weekly planner piece come out on Sunday, as it will every week. Esteury Ruiz was not listed in the Fab article. And it's always tough here because the leagues I'm in, if I'm in a 14 or 15 team league, and it's a roto league, that's totally different than you all being in a 10 or 12 team head-to-head league, right? It's just not even the roster size, but the way the rosters are managed, all that, totally different. In the leagues I'm in, I think you could take a stab at Esteury Ruiz. Why? Esteury Ruiz has been designated for assignment by the Athletics. So it's very likely, if not outright, going to happen that some other team is going to take a shot on Ruiz now that he's been designated for assignment. It's possible that Esteury Ruiz, who the A's just want nothing to do with, is added by a team today, tomorrow, and then their starting lineup by Friday. Like, that's possible. Is it likely? No. But remember, Ruiz led baseball in steals a couple years ago. Ruiz playing every day steals 50 bases. Even if he's hitting 8th or 9th, probably it's going to still steal 50 bases, right? So Ruiz is definitely somebody, if you're going to play the game of let's be proactive versus reactive, you add Esteury Ruiz now. The problem we run into is, as I said here, I'm not sure where Ruiz is going to play. He could go to another organ. He could go to the Dodgers. Dodgers could grab him. Hypothetically, if everyone passes on him, he gets to the Dodgers could grab him, send him to the minor leagues because they have 47. So then his value's useless still. So it's very tough. The only way I would really think it would make sense to add Ruiz would be if you had a player go on the IL and you have an open roster spot, and you just want to take a chance here for the next couple of days to see. Obviously, again, if you're in a head-to-head league, much less interest. If you're in a roto league, though, could be a difference maker, at least in one category. Just put it out there. Again, but just put it out there so we can say that we talked about it, or at least we're aware if, again, the signing comes down that the Pirates grab him. They're going to play him every day. Let's make a move to add Esteury Ruiz. Let's talk about some pitchers. Jacob deGrom blanked the Red Sox for 5 innings, had 6 strikeouts on Sunday, a couple of walks, left with a 1-0 lead. His fastball was down velocity-wise, which I think is the plan, which is, I think, a good idea. He's talked openly about trying to back off a little bit. Let's throw the fastball at 95%. I can still dominate. Yes. Not everyone can do that. Bailey Ober got bombed in his first outing, going from 92 to 90. A lot different than going from 98 to 96. And also with the pinpoint control of deGrom. deGrom was great. This changes nothing for me. The only thing that matters with deGrom is the innings pitched number. That's it. That's all that matters with him. I guess the start number too. But you know what I'm saying. That's all. Workload is all that matters with deGrom. If deGrom pitches, he's going to at least at a minimum be effective. There will be efforts such as yesterday where he's going to dominate. That I have no doubt. The only problem is, what is that workload going to look like with him? Great start. It is what it is. We've all made our minds up with Jacob deGrom. What happened yesterday didn't change any of that. Got a frog in my throat here. Jeez, hold on a second. Jeez, can't get rid of it. Bryan, woo! Wow. For those of you that don't remember or that weren't with us last year at fantasyguru.com, my breakout pitcher of the year was Bryan Woo. I didn't call it a victory this year when I wrote up this year's breakout pitcher of the year, which, by the way, for everyone now, it was Nick Lodolo, for those of you that weren't members. Woo only made 22 starts, I think, last year, so he didn't have enough volume to be a true breakout pitcher of the year last year, but he was fantastic. Coming into this season, I found it hilarious that everyone wanted to draft Bryan Woo this year. Again, if you're with us at FG, you drafted him last year. You got him last year in the 23rd round, right? Now he's being taken in the 10th round this year. Woo was fantastic on Sunday. 1 run, 3 hits, and 6 innings of work against the Athletics. Dude is just good. And he is pretty remarkable since the start of last season, at least. He's been very Greg Maddux-like. You know, he gets through 5 or 6 innings and he's at 75, 80 pitches. And that's a plus and a minus. The strikeout rate isn't huge. So, you know, that hurts a little bit in the fantasy outlook, but his ability to go 5 or 6 innings every time out, whereas a lot of guys struggle to do that because it keeps the pitch count down, it leaves him more of an opportunity for victories. Theoretically could help him in those leagues if he could stay healthy. Big count, quality starts, or innings pitched. But the fact is that he doesn't beat himself with the walk. He throws strikes, he gets in, he gets out, and he's just on. Woo's number, it's kind of like Jacob deGrom, not to the same level because he doesn't have a 30% strikeout rate, not to the same level because we can't compare a guy who's been good for half a season to Jacob deGrom, but the same similar outlooks that I think both deGrom and Woo are going to be effective. The question is it 29 starts? Is it 26 starts? Is it 18 starts? Like, where does it end up? Bryan Woo was terrific against the Athletics to start the 2025 season. Luke Jackson. We talked about this in the preseason, and we talked about Luke Jackson in particular recently. Bruce Bochy with the Rangers. Bruce Bochy has always, going back to his days in San Diego, always preferred, wanted, utilized one closer. He does not believe in the dual closer thing. Whereas some managers, they live and die by that. Bochy's the other way. He lives and dies by the single guy. We thought Robert Garcia would be in the mix. We were certain Chris Martin would be in the mix, though we talked about Chris Martin here on the show, or also wrote about him over at FG. And the thing is with Martin, he's approaching age of 40. He's never been a closer before. He's not a guy that I think the Rangers would feel comfortable saying we're going to throw him 72 games this year, right? It's just, we're going to throw him 52 games, going to give us 59 innings of great work. That's kind of, and he'll get 8 saves, 10 saves, right? So that's why I didn't really push Chris Martin as a guy you got to draft or whatever. He didn't profile to me as a 28 save guy, right? Not that he couldn't, but he just didn't profile that way. Luke Jackson, though, was not. Luke Jackson was like the 4th or 5th guy for everyone, I think. And then we got the late report that came out of camp there that basically said Luke Jackson's in the mix for the 9th inning. Okay, let's take this seriously, but still, he's one of the guys. Well, he might still not lead this team in saves. It might go horribly wrong for Luke Jackson, but he's already got 2 saves. And the fact is, he's pitched in 3 of 4 games for the Rangers. He had a rough outing. They brought him right back out there. That, to me, is the Bruce Bochy, and I've seen this firsthand. He's coached the Giants for a long time. When you go out and you have success, obviously it leads to more opportunities to have success. When you struggle, and then the manager goes right back to you, that's the manager not only saying, I believe in you, that's the manager saying, this is what we're doing. So in labor, a league where I needed closers, I need saves, that's a traditional 5x5 league, I was one of like 6 teams that bid on Luke Jackson. I actually got Luke Jackson. I went a little aggressive because, again, I only have 1 closer on that team. So I went a little aggressive there. We have $100 to spend in labor. I spent $8, so 8% of my budget, which I didn't think was an aggressive amount, and I wasn't quite sure I'd get Luke Jackson anyway. All the other bids were like, there was 2, 3, 3, 4, 2, something like that. So I basically doubled all the other bids. I don't think 8% is crazy at all to have spent on him. I'm totally comfortable with that, number 1. Number 2, I need closers bad in that league. Again, I only have 1 closer, so I had to be a little more aggressive. And because of the usage pattern that I just discussed with Luke Jackson, I'm starting to feel a little bit better about his opportunity. If he doesn't implode, I'm starting to feel a little bit better about his opportunity to get you 20 saves this year for the Rangers. Speaking of the Giants, Bob Melvin said that Sunday Ryan Walker didn't pitch because of back tightness. Okay. Guess who got the save? Camilo Duvall. Okay. Guess who we talked about all off season is a guy that, no one's talking about, but maybe with your last pick, Camilo Duvall. Who's a guy that you could have and should have probably handcuffed in the bullpen? We wrote an article about that at FG. We talked about it here on the show. Ryan Walker and Camilo Duvall. Duvall still has 20 saves each of the last 3 years. Ryan Walker has never had 20 saves in a season his entire career. Ryan Walker, I think, is 29. He was terrific last season, 10 saves, 10 holds. I think he had 10 wins. He was fantastic last year. But no experience full season long as a closer at any level, right? This is probably nothing, but maybe the back tightness causes Walker to miss a few games. Maybe he's got a place on the injury list for a week or so. Maybe Camilo Duvall comes out there throwing 97 miles an hour, getting outs. Camilo Duvall, not the worst addition right now if you're looking for somebody in middle relief. You could pick up some saves. I think Duvall, as we talked about now, he get 8 to 10 saves just anyway, right? There's a chance here, depending upon the health of Walker, of course, where that number could be a lot higher. And I haven't even mentioned about whether Walker can replicate the success he had last season or not. I think he was terrific last year. I think his stuff was legit. I think his crossfire motion really messes with batters. I think he's got a very good chance, a very reasonable chance of being very effective this season. We got to follow the back, got to follow the health. And right now, Camilo Duvall should be on a watch list at least as a pickup. JP Sears, it was funny. I had a JP Sears question this morning in Discord. JP Sears had a quality start against the Mariners on Sunday, and I think that Sears is underrated, but he's a mixed league streamer. That's what he is. There'll be matchups where it's like, yay. There'll be other matchups where it's like, no. He'll get you about a strikeout in an inning, doesn't beat himself with the walk. Unfortunately, he's a fly ball guy. Home runs are a significant problem for him. They're always going to dog him a little bit. Moving out of the Coliseum to Sacramento doesn't figure to help JP Sears. And though he looked really good against the Mariners, next outing is at Colorado against the Rockies. You can't. For a guy that's fly ball pitcher who's homer prone, you can't pitch him in Colorado, even though the Rockies aren't very good. You can't. So if you're adding JP Sears, you can't be adding him expecting to pitch next time out, which is always tough, adding a guy and then just not starting him, right? If you're in a head-to-head league, and he's a streamer. and you're not pitching him in Colorado. So just make sure, everyone, that you take a look at the schedules. Things change, guys get hurt, rotations get shifted all the time, and it'll get way worse as we get deeper into the season. But for now, Sears is slated to pitch against the Rockies in Colorado. So even if you added him after that start yesterday against the Mariners, he is not a recommended play the next time out. All right, let's look here at some of the comments. Brandon A. Good morning, Ray. Happy 2025 baseball season. Same to you, Brandon. Appreciate you. Thanks for joining the show, watching all that kind of stuff. Here's a question from Brandon. I have a 10-team NL only and notice Eury Perez is still on the IL. Is there any update on where he is in his progress that you are aware of? Eury Perez at this point in time is progressing positively. The expectations that I have seen, according to most, is that he should be available right around the All-Star break. I haven't heard any negative report. I haven't seen a direct report on him probably in 2 weeks. I haven't looked it up because I would assume if there's any issue, it would have popped, right? And someone would have said anything. But the expectation is right around midseason for Perez. Coming back from the surgery, he's hit all the boxes, checked everything. He was throwing in camp, all that kind of stuff. It's all been good news with him. Obviously, they're going to be very careful with his return from injury. Even in an NL-only league, Eury Perez should not be on waivers. If he's on the IL, though, just sit him there. Let it play out. He's a guy that could make 12 to 15 solid starts. In an NL-only league, that's big. There's always a chance for a setback. There's always a chance they slow play this because, again, he's kind of the future on the hill for the Marlins. But the expectation is they'll get about a half a season of work out of him. Some of those outings when he comes back, they could be 75 pitch outings, 60 pitch outings. They could skip an outing. I'm not calling for him to go out there and throw 95 pitches 12 times, right? But no negative reports that I have seen, Brandon, on Eury Perez's health, and we're looking at about a midseason return from him, according to estimates. And John G says he will not be named. I don't know. Is that in reference to Nick Lodolo? I don't know. Maybe it was. I think no one named him, so good for everybody. But yeah, he was the breakout pitcher of the year at fantasyguru.com. If he's on the waiver wire, your league blew it, go at him. Can't imagine he's on the waiver wire, especially after his solid effort first time out. But he was the guy we tabbed this year. We'll keep our fingers crossed that he has the success that we saw last year out of Bryan Wu, and the season before that out of Justin Steele. So we're on a pretty good run there with that at fantasyguru.com. All right, I'm going to cut this a little bit short today. I got my final dentist visit today. It's deep cleaning, all kinds of, lots of fancy stuff. You don't need to know about that, but I got to go and get the DFS article done. Got to start digging into some wagering for the day, some bets as well. Head over to fantasyguru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. Send a note to support@fantasyguru.com. Support@fantasyguru.com. If you got any questions about the baseball product, the football product, the basketball, hockey, NASCAR, PGA, MMA, soccer, horse racing, all of it is available over at FG. Support@fantasyguru.com. We'll be back here on the show tomorrow, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'll be on talking baseball the first half hour of the show. Armando Marsal will join us for the second half of the show at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time to talk football. And remember, folks, keep your fingers crossed for me today, because not only is it going to be a long day for me, I'm going to the dentist. I'm going to have shots to do this work they're doing on. I need to be able to speak later tonight. So let's hope that the shots wear off in the 4 hours from the end to the time I got to talk tonight. Ray, what the hell are you talking about? Don't forget, the Elite Sports Game Time Show debuts tonight. Myself and Justin Fensterman will be on for the next 3 months on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Again, Elite Sports Game Time. That's Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 Eastern Standard Time. Justin and I will be talking about all the game action, what's going on, following the bets at FG, keeping you entertained, hopefully, as well. Last year was 4 days a week. This year, it's all 5. So for the next 3 months, starting tonight, Elite Sports Game Time, SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio from 8 to 10 Eastern, myself and Justin Fensterman. Let's go. And keep those fingers crossed that I'll be able to talk and not be slurring my words. If I slur my words tonight, I'm not drunk. My mouth is just still numb from my dental appointment. I swear. Thanks for watching. Tell a friend about the free show today and sign up for the products over at fantasyguru.com. I am Ray Flowers. We'll see you again tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time right here for Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.